You're listening to the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Fonte with a scooping header.
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
Отдача, Остин! Все-таки забил!
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. And, 2 wins in the space of a week will really do something for your confidence. Hard not to enjoy what the team did on the pitch this week. But even with that, the road ahead is going to be a bit tough. Not only do we face Wolves in the next round, which, to be fair, isn't the worst of the fixtures that we could have had, but by the time we meet them for back-to-back fixtures at the end of February, we'll have played 6 games in 3 weeks. And that's really going to tax our squad. The squad is already thin. We have more mounting injuries, as it came out today that KWP will not feature in the match against Arsenal. And that is a significant worry for most Saints fans and definitely for Ralph Hasenhuttl as well. But still plenty to be happy about in terms of performances. The youngsters got in on the action early in the week, and we'll have to see how Ralph manages the minutes of the guys going forward. But joining me this week to discuss all of that and your questions is Tom Mason. You can find Tom on Twitter at Tom_Mason18 and on Instagram at Tom_Mason19. The links to those are in the show notes. Tom has been on the show before, and he's currently writing for Prost International. So if you are interested in following the Premier League or the Championship or whatever, you can head on over to Prost International, and Tom and the rest of the guys will keep you up to date with everything that's happening there. But that's enough here. And whether you're listening before or after the Arsenal match on Tuesday evening, just want to say thank you, and we'll talk to you on the other side. We'd like to welcome back to the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, Tom Mason. You can find him on Twitter at Tom_Mason18 and on Instagram at Tom_Mason19. Tom, it's been a little while. How are things, I guess, including the lockdown?
Yeah, good. Obviously, it's been helped by strong performances of the whole season, really. Obviously, of late it's been a bit more sort of on and off, but cup wins in the last sort of week or so has really helped to get the mood. And yeah, obviously, like you say, lockdown in the UK, so it seems like it's never going to end, but we have got the vaccine now, which seems to be progressing quite far. So yeah, all good, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think there's any avoiding it. It's just you kind of have to acknowledge that it's there, and you got to kind of do the lockdown. It's not nearly as I guess it's hard to get people on board for the third time around. The first time everybody kind of has this collective thing. Second one, maybe you go, okay, one more time, and then this time it's like, it's hard. We're going through the same thing here, though. The vaccine is being rolled out slowly. Obviously last week was a big week here in the United States, so we'll see how things go from here. But I hope that you are staying safe, but you have been able to get out a little bit because you've been doing some writing and some reporting and some coverage for Prost International. I know a little bit about Prost International, and I know spoken to Steve Clare a couple of times via email and things like that, but how did that come about, and how are you finding the job essentially?
Yeah, it sort of came about through like finishing uni and in the final year of uni, wanting to sort of further my writing and stuff, and like I sort of looked online and sort of saw a few people I knew had already started doing it, sort of thing. I started that sort of back end of 2019, and then was going to start going to games like March last year, and then obviously this all happened, so it sort of slowed it down, and then wrote a bit when we started coming back. Bundesliga and stuff, and then the Premier League came back a bit more. Then it sort of slowed down a bit, and then the season came. I saw an opportunity to start some things like Bournemouth. It's not that far down the road, so that's good. And yeah, it's really good. We're really lucky to be able to go out and do games whilst no one else, no fans can go. So it's really good. I'm really enjoying it, and just hopefully I can keep it going for a little bit longer.
Yeah. I mean, it like you said, it is an opportunity to get out to just probably see some new places you haven't seen in terms of stadiums, and definitely a different viewpoint, a different vantage point once you're in the stadium as well. And so I guess for you, I mean, has there been a place that you've gotten to visit, a place you've gotten to go that you hadn't been before that really, that stands out that you would say, hey, once this is all over, if you could go see a match here to somebody who's listening to the show, where would you send them?
Definitely Brentford. They've got a new stadium, own a championship, top of league. I've been there two or three times now, and it's just incredible. It's ready made for the Premier League, and I really hope they can come up. They've got football, a great manager, Thomas Frank. And it's sort of like just out, sort of not far from Fulham and Chelsea for anyone that knows London very well. So it's sort of like West London. But yeah, it's a very nice stadium, and the club are really friendly. So I would advise anyone to just sort of pick a team that I've sort of seen recently, probably Brentford, and by the time you can go to games, they'll probably be in the Premier League. So
yeah. Well, everybody thought they were going to come up last year, right? Like, and they managed to blow it several times. So hopefully they do manage it. We're recording Sunday evening. I think they're out of the FA Cup. I think they lost to Leicester City earlier today, but we know how that goes. But I guess the 2 wins in a week will change the perspective around Saints, even though they are in the cup and our league form. We haven't scored that many goals, and we still only managed 1 against Arsenal. But clean sheets, wins. The defense is playing well. Not that I'm not worried about us not scoring goals, but I guess let's just kind of walk through the FA Cup. Did you get to see the match against Shrewsbury in midweek?
Yeah, I managed to watch it. I was pleased to see a lot of the sort of the fringe and younger players that will get a go. Particularly impressed with Dan. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think Ndulundu. I think that's how it's said.
That's fine with me.
I think Chalk as well. Really impressed with Watts. Looked good. Even like players like Jan Valery haven't played a huge amount. He's still young, but you wouldn't class him as like a youngster massively in terms of playing ability. So I was really pleased to see a lot of them come in, and obviously Hazen get the win in the end, and it set up the Arsenal tie, which worked out really well as well.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it because it's one of those games we were talking before we were recording. Midweek games can be difficult. It just happened to fall at a bad time for school, and I do have to work sometimes, even though if I pretend like I don't. But it was nice to see. You looked at that team sheet and you go like, well, I haven't seen very many of these players play in a match where they're going to be, they're going to have the commentators and things more so than just one guy calling it on YouTube. So it was nice to see them come in, and Ralph put some faith in them, and they did enough. And I was maybe a little bit worried that we could, make a mess of it. I mean, we didn't play well in the EFL Cup, and not that it was the same team by any means, but I was a little bit worried about it. But we seem to have plenty and do plenty, and Ward-Prowse did make a start as well, and kind of ran things as normal, and definitely put the game out of reach with that free kick. But like you said, the youngsters really did play well, and it was nice to get through and I guess meet Arsenal yesterday at St. Mary's. Yeah,
you always think Saints seem to. Talk to a lot of people and say it all the time, like they always seem to get a good draw, and then they seem to get a really tough one. So it was nice to actually go to beat Shrewsbury, and I think, Arsenal, and beat them, and then we've got Wolves again, which is another tough game, but it's definitely winnable.
Yeah.
The Arsenal performance, I caught a bit of it on TV before, and then on the radio after as well, and we were quite lucky really. They didn't really seem to attack it very much in terms of their team selection. So yeah, it was good, and obviously we went pretty much for the strength other than McCarthy, who I don't think there's much difference between Force and McCarthy anyway. So good to see we sort of attacked it quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk a little bit about the Arsenal match, because I did get to watch it. Even it was early. I kind of remember it. But a 4:15 a.m. kickoff here on the west coast of the United States, 12:15 p.m. kickoff at St. Mary's. That lineup, when it came out, I'll be honest, I didn't see it until kickoff because, as I said, it was early. But basically, that's the strongest team we can put out, and the only switch really is Forster from McCarthy. And Ralph has come out today on Sunday before we spoke and said that Forster is going to be the keeper for the remainder of this competition, which I think is good. And really, I guess my thoughts on it were that he was going to get a chance to play with the first team and show what he can do with the first team against Premier League opposition. Granted, Arsenal didn't put out as strong of a team as they maybe could, and I think we'll come on to it, but I think they'll be a little bit tougher on Tuesday. But for you, I mean, were you shocked that we went that strong given the run of games that we're going to have now? I think we play every weekend and midweek for the next 3 weeks, and injury wise, we're thin. We could run into some trouble. But what were your thoughts on that lineup?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that you went as strong as you did, but I thought it would be a massive risk to play anyone that didn't play, if that makes sense. Because there's not really any squad players that could have come in, other than Long. You could have said that he played during the week, so like even much an Echo or moving the centre backs out, he just couldn't really do it. So yeah, it was I was good to see it, but yeah, the schedule in the next few weeks is brutal, to be honest, and it doesn't look like we're going to get many of the players back anytime soon. Maybe one of them for the bench, I think Ralph said, but yeah, it doesn't look great in terms of injuries.
I mean, and on that note, I was a little bit surprised that Ward-Prowse played against Shrewsbury, even because he just seems to always be there. But I mean, the guy is a machine, it seems like, and both with free kicks and just running the show. And Diallo alongside him seems to be playing very well and sliding in very well. So maybe as they play together, they'll continue to get even stronger. And I think the debate's going to come up. Does Romeu come back in once he's fit? And I think I even went probably a little while yesterday in the first half, kind of not even noticing Diallo. And I think that's what you want from that position. It just means he's just doing enough, keeping things ticking over, giving the ball to the more creative players and winning it back. But I don't know. I was pretty impressed with the whole team yesterday. But I think one of the things that we're going to see, and one of the things we struggled with is I've been critical of McCarthy's kind of footwork and his passing of the ball. And that's one of the things that Ralph really pushes the goalkeeper and the defenders to do, is to play out and to play with their feet. What did you make of Forster, and was that at all a worry given his injury? And then, he's, I always kind of thought of him more similar to McCarthy as a shot stopper. My kind of favorite Fraser Forster moment or match is that match against Arsenal when he just seemed to block everything, and I think we finished 0-0 a couple of years ago. And I remember where I was when I watched that match, and how much my friend, my best friend's an Arsenal fan, and we were watching it together, and how upset he was and how happy I was that he was upset. But I mean, were you worried at all now that he's been asked to do so much more with his feet? And how did you think he fared yesterday? Yeah,
well, I was a little bit worried, to be honest, but we all know that as the goalkeeper in there, and obviously he had a good year at Celtic last year. And when he initially came in for the Liverpool game, I think a lot of people were worried. He hadn't played since it was March with Celtic, so it's a big worry. But yeah, in terms of like having to play a lot of his feet, isn't ill, but he is a sort of goalkeeper that sort of, he has to clear it, he will. He doesn't tend to dilly-dally with it. I know there's a goal at Arsenal a few years ago, Giroud, where he tried to take him on and got dispossessed. But I think other than that, he just sort of does tend to get it away anyway.
Yeah. There was an instance early on when I kind of felt like he should have come and got the ball. He started to come and then kind of retreated, and Bertrand had to put it out for a corner. But I think maybe that's just down to playing with a new back line, and then the communication will come. And if he wasn't confident in his ability to get there, I mean, it could have been a real mess. If he doesn't get there, it's probably a penalty or a goal. So we defend the corner, nothing happens, we're okay. Do you think that'll get better as time goes on, just because they'll play together more, or do you still worry about his decision making? Maybe he's doubting himself still a little bit.
Yeah, I think it will get better, and I think he's obviously played with Stevens, and he might have obviously have played with Bertrand before, so he knows the players there, and I think it'll just take time. Obviously, he's been away from the club and away from the team a hell of a lot, so it just takes a little bit of time, and I'm glad to see he's going to be playing in the FA Cup, and hopefully we can get a decent run, because it's great to have two sort of keepers pushing each other. We've not really had that for quite a while now.
And then going forward a little bit, I think like through the first 15 minutes, there was no score, but we were the better team. And Arsenal, it seemed to that point, we had a lot of possession, which I wasn't really expecting. I was expecting Arsenal to try to dominate the ball a little bit more, and they do as time goes on. But we seemed to be in their half quite a bit, and they were trying to hit us on the break, and that's always going to be a little bit of an issue for us, because the center backs that we have don't have pace, whether it's Stevens, Bednarak, Vestergaard, whoever it is. I think Salisu has pace, assuming he does actually exist. But that it worried me a little bit, but I thought we started the game very strongly and we're really imposing ourselves on the game, which I think coming out of recent Premier League performances, and then, if you kind of put Shrewsbury aside, no kind of offense to them, but they are a lower league side. It wasn't our first team that was out there for the most part. And so when you see us kind of imposing ourselves and playing in their half and trying to basically create chances against a Premier League side, that I felt like that was a good sign for us. But I mean, what did you make of our start overall to the match?
Yeah, I think we started pretty well on the whole. We had a few good chances. Che went through, Chadman went through after making a good feat and taking it past Gabriel, forcing Leno into a save. That was good. We just played on the front foot like we always do, really. Yeah, it was good. It was a pretty good start, and I think that's sort of just the way we play in it. That sort of fast start, trying to get an early goal, and goals have dried up a bit lately, but hopefully knowing that's it, we can start sort of putting things to bed earlier, because it was nervy the whole way through that game.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a chance that a free kick that Arsenal had right before we scored, and it seemed to me like it was almost similar to the free kick that we scored against Liverpool, where they kind of went front post. The run was timed well. If the strike is better, maybe we're in some trouble, but we tend to play a very high line on the set pieces, and we tend to hold that line very well. I was just glad that chance didn't really materialize into anything or come to fruition for Arsenal, because I would have been a little bit worried had we gone 1-0 down that early if Arsenal chose to sit deep and defend, which I'm not sure. I should just say, I think Arsenal is the perfect team for us to play at this point, especially with the kind of semi half strength side they put out yesterday. Maybe that's disrespectful to Arsenal. I don't want to take anything away from us, but Arteta has this vision and this way that he wants to play, and we've seen Pep kind of get away from that a little bit at City early on in the season, but he's got a very strong kind of he likes to impose himself and have this game plan. Bielsa has the same thing, and when we come up against teams who want to play with the ball, who want to attack us, who want to keep it on the floor and try to play through us, we tend to play really well. It's when teams sit back that we tend to struggle. So I thought that this was kind of maybe the best thing we could have had was that Arsenal team trying to carve us open, which we did pretty well, I think, to put to bed. But let's talk about the goal a little bit. Walker Peters tried to claim it. I think Blackmore called it for Adams initially before it was given as an own goal. I kind of found initially that we had 2 or 3 passes that just weren't quite perfect. And I think that kind of sums up how things have gone recently, where we have a pass that's just not weighted correctly, and it takes the player off their run, or they have it creates somebody who winds up being offside or whatever. And I kind of thought, maybe this is going to be one of those things where it breaks down because we just can't quite play that final ball or even that second to last ball. But Kyle Walker-Peters did well to create space for himself. He puts the ball into a dangerous area. I didn't actually know who got what touch or whatever, but I was really impressed with just the idea that he just kept going, and he's done this at other parts of the season, and he's been able to create space for himself, which I think has been a huge blessing for us, because we're not blessed with we don't have a ton of creativity, I guess I would say, and so his ability to create that space, put that ball in, I was just really impressed with that, and I wish we got ourselves into those positions a little bit more often.
Yeah, completely agree. He was he's been sensational since even the initial loan spell. Brilliant, and I think his right back position is, he's been one of the best in the league, and I'm probably quite biased, but he's been really good and offers such a bigger things like space, what happened to the goal yesterday, and it's vital that we keep him fit. And I think obviously you saw against Shrewsbury the fact he wasn't playing, the fact we missed him so much down the right in terms of creating chances. The formation we play doesn't really give us much creativity in terms of the wingers, and not inverted wingers sort of. So yeah, I'm really pleased with him.
I think depending on who we ask about yesterday, if we asked for Saints' best player, some people would say Cedric, and I was really shocked at how poor he looked. Granted, he was playing out of position, but cool. I shouldn't be as vindictive towards a player. He doesn't deserve that necessarily, but one of Arsenal's only real chances fell to him, and he kindly put it I'm not sure how far up into the stands it went, but it was definitely near Rosie. And
he was playing rugby.
yeah. I mean, it was fantastic. And this comes up one of these things. So maybe you can explain this to me. And if you think that I'm just totally, I should know this by now. I mean, this is year 4 or 5 of doing the show. But I messaged an Arsenal fan and an Arsenal podcast and just said, I apologize for how bad Cedric is, but I'm not sorry today. And he just replied with he's bang average. If somebody says somebody is bang average, does that mean not good? Or does that mean he's average? Like he's going to be a 7 out of 10 every time or a 6 out of 10 every time? Please explain to me what this means and how I should take that message.
Yeah, I think it means sort of you're never going to get a 10 out of 10 or even a 3 or 4 out of 10. It's always going to be a consistent 6 or 7.
Okay.
Right. I think it's sort of saw when he was with us, to be honest. You never sort of got a 9 or 10 out of 10 from it. It's always sort of, you never sort of always had a bad game. You know, sort of wow.
Yeah, but I mean, because average isn't, terrible, right? If you're an average Premier League player, you're still really, really good. But I didn't think he was very good yesterday, which I was glad. But I also thought that we did a pretty good job of putting our bodies in the way of potential shots and things like that to kind of keep out any danger. I think Pepe had a shot that was blocked, but it's hard to really. You had the early set piece where they I think it was Martinelli maybe didn't get a great connection. You had Cedric who had
big chance.
He had time on the ball, who put it in the stands, and then I think Pepe had a shot, and I'm really struggling to think of a lot of clear chances they had in the first half. Aside from that, and I think that's a testament to us and the game plan. And I know Arsenal did tend to have the ball more often, but we play fine without it. We do best when we're winning it back. And I think the only thing that it shows is that we're still, if you give us the ball, I think we will struggle to score goals. If you try to play through us, I think we'll create more chances. And we have guys like Danny Ings who nearly put us ahead by 2, with I think the ball off the post and then off the keeper and then out. Just an inch or 2 either way, and on the initial shot, and maybe it goes in. So, I was really impressed with the first half. I was really impressed with kind of how we just conducted ourselves for most of the match.
Yeah, it was a really sort of workmanlike performance and professional performance throughout. And Ward-Prowse's corner as well. I definitely mentioned that, but that could have easily gone in. I don't know if he meant it or not, but that was a big chance. Yeah, we limited them to very few chances throughout the 90 minutes. And that Martinelli one you said about was probably one of their better ones. And Kessie, I think it was as well. Of course, made a big save later on. We limited them to very little, to be honest.
The other thing I was kind of thinking is I think the ball from a free kick fell to Rob Holding, and the ball just seemed to kind of hang up in the air too long. I was a little bit worried about what was happening, but I think they had a couple of instances where they seemed to have chances, but they were offside eventually. And initially, I was really happy with this decision to let play go on. Don't put the flag up if it's marginal, let it play out and then we'll see. But I think we're sometimes like that. It's like, look, that's a heart attack I didn't need, right? My adrenaline was up for no reason. And you can see guys getting hurt and you can do all this. And I know there's no probably great answer to it. There's no right solution necessarily, but I was a little bit, I wanted them to blow the whistle earlier because our goal was being attacked. And I think even if it goes in, even if they're offside, but the ball goes in, I think that takes something away from us because, that's maybe it does something to the mentality of the team if they do allow a goal, even if the guy is offside, something like that. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. Our defense has been ridiculously good this year, especially at home. We've barely conceded many goals other than the Man United and Spurs game. So I don't think we've really conceded many goals. So yeah, home form has been really good. There
was an instance in the second half as well where I think Bertrand and Stevens both kind of worked Pepe over a little bit, and I really appreciate that from Bertrand. Just we're here, and then I think Stevens knew exactly what he was doing as well. He's we've given Ward-Prowse credit for mastering the dark arts as he's gotten a little older, and I think Stevens is right there with him, which is great because I think you need that as a center back because you have center forwards backing up into you all the time and probably stepping on your feet and doing all kinds of other things. So you got to kind of give it back off camera or whatever. But I was really impressed with everything the defense did as time went on. And I guess this is where I start to get concerned is are you at all worried about how we looked in the last 20, 25, 30 minutes? The intensity tended to drop a little bit. It tends to drop a little bit. It's normal for teams to have a run in a game, but I worry about our ability to keep that intensity for 90 minutes, especially with how compact the schedule is going to be over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be hard to play the same sort of way every game, and we've got enough games. We have to prioritise games as well. Like, got to be realistic with ourselves. Games against, I think, Man United coming up next week after next. So 1 week would probably sound stupid, but you probably must be fair that is. And target the games you think you can do better in. Probably they've got a tough run of games coming up, but Newcastle's coming up as well. That's a big game you should go out and win. So I think there's going to be instances where you will see games targeted more than others.
And I, as we kind of talked about before, I can't see us really rotating all that much because there's nobody really to rotate to. And there was an instance late on yesterday where Nlindalu was on for Ings, and Nlindalu had scored the goal against Shrewsbury, and he looked fine. He got a start actually in that game, but he came on for Ings. The ball comes to him with probably one of our better chances in stoppage time as Arsenal are trying to push forward for a goal. And he just looked slow. Like, he didn't look like he was quite, there's a definite, I just have it written in my notes, like, he's no Ings. Like, Danny Ings is not necessarily that fast, but there's just something about the sharpness and the movement that Ings has that Adams is developing. Adams is big and powerful and strong, and he does kind of, he puts himself about, and he was attacking that ball that Kyle Walker-Peters put into the area early for the goal, which I think is exactly what we need him to do. We need people to be brave and because that causes a mistake. If there's no pressure there from Adams, then maybe the clearance is better. Maybe that touch doesn't happen. Maybe the keeper calls for it or whatever. But with a player right there attacking it, that's something that we need. And then and I don't know. And Nlindalu comes on, and he's gonna be hopefully fine and great. And I've enjoyed watching him play, but he just looked a little bit slower. Not quite up to pace, and maybe we can blame that on how cold it was. Maybe there's a ton of things that could be there, but does that worry you at all that to see the drop off between the first 11 and everyone else?
It is a little bit of a worry, but he's still quite young and hasn't really played a huge amount, so he's got big developments to come. But I think particularly other areas as well, like centre back. If anything happened to Stevens or Bertrand, then I really don't know what we'd do. So it is a bit of a worry. But I think up front, I think they could be moving into the market in the summer. Particularly if Shane Long doesn't seem to even impress when. Yeah, I think a little bit of a worry, but hopefully he can ride through the next few weeks. It's all okay.
Yeah, I don't think Shane Long hasn't impressed anybody so far, and maybe I think we tend to do this. We in past years it's been Stevens. We find a player, we harp on them. But Long serves a purpose in the team, and whether that's to draw make sure the linesman's paying attention, or just make sure the workout gets in on that right arm. But he's not going to set the world on fire, scoring goals. And I just looking at the schedule a little bit, going forward. Obviously, we play Arsenal on Tuesday, so the day this comes out. That's a 12:15 kickoff for me, so 8:15 in the evening for you. We play Villa, United, and then Newcastle, and then we play Wolves midweek, and then at the weekend I was just kind of looking. We play Arsenal back to back, and then we turn around and do it the same to Wolves. I don't know if that makes a difference. The only difference here is that we play Arsenal twice at home, and then we go away to Wolves for the FA Cup, and then we have them at home for in the league. So. That'll be a little bit interesting, but I guess did you have a main takeaway from the match from yesterday, and if so, what was it, and how do you see this kind of impacting us going forward? I guess
just sort of like the way he sort of really respected the FA Cup. I think it would have been very easy to, again, I know we haven't got many first team players available due to injuries, but it would have been very easy to sort of make a few more changes than he did, and to keep. He didn't really change it for sort of the last 12, 13 minutes, so it would have been very easy to sort of switch it up. But I think it could impact us going forward, because you see players have injuries all the time, and it doesn't seem to be many players come back from injury, so that could impact us.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that sums it up pretty well. I am worried because I feel like we're just one or two injuries away from really being in trouble and really struggling. And I wrote in the newsletter last week, if you look, we have the biggest difference between our expected goals and the goals that we've actually scored. I just don't see us creating enough chances, especially as teams start to adjust. But at the same time, we're going to come up against some teams who I think will play into our hands a little bit. I think Aston Villa will be a good test for us. I think they will want to play. They'll want the ball. They're going to want to get Grealish on the ball and come after us. And I think that plays into our hands. United may actually choose to park it a little bit and then play on the break, and that could be dangerous for us. So I think that'll be a good test for the entire squad. I think Newcastle, I just don't think they're very good. But we could, I could easily see that one being 0-0, right? Like we don't have a great record up at St. James's Park. I know when you go there, and maybe this is a blessing that nobody will be there because you don't have to sit, on the top of a mountain and try to look down and figure out who's playing who.
Ridiculous.
But
long way as well.
Yeah, it's a long trip. And then Wolves. I mean, that might be a game where they try to play and their qualities, they're struggling a little bit. So maybe that's good. But I am a little bit worried, I guess, about some of the players that are going to be, the line isn't very long when you start asking guys to step up, and all of a sudden, if you look at our bench, it's children who are hopefully the just get their shin pads and their shoes tied tight enough to stay on. So that's that. But if you don't mind, I think unless you want to add something around either the Arsenal match, the Shrewsbury match, or the upcoming Arsenal match, which I can say I think will be a little bit more difficult. I think Arsenal will come with a slightly stronger squad. I think you can expect Aubameyang and Lacazette to probably start. But that said, I do still feel pretty confident that we can give them that we can play with them. I'm not worried about that. I do worry if something happens where we lose a player, either in the days leading up to that. Was obviously we're recording on Sunday, so there's still Monday training and things could go wrong, or if we lose a player mid match, that could be an issue. But so unless you want to add anything, I think let's go on and answer some listener questions, and we'll head that way.
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. So some of these come from the patrons. Actually, the only questions we got this week were from patrons, but people can send in their questions on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. But Justin Woodward asks this question. He's a patron of the show. He says, either this pod or next, considering the finances and the strength of the squad, have or is the team punching above their weight? And does this really show how good of a manager we have? So to put that to you, are we overachieving at this point?
I think you have to say we are, yeah. I think when you look at sort of the last three seasons, we've been in a relegation fight for us. Particularly the 2 seasons before that last season. In the relegation fight last year was a bit more comfortable towards the end. But yeah, I think when you look at that, like to only be, I think it's 4 points or 5 points behind Liverpool for the game in hand, 2 or 4. It's just ridiculous, really. And we've had pretty poor form in the league recently. So yeah, I think you can definitely say we're overachieving and didn't make huge additions in the summer. Obviously, Diallo came in and has impacted in a positive way. Salisu is nowhere to be seen. Right, Walcott's coming and done well. But other than that, I think that's everyone we've signed. We haven't really signed a huge amount of players in the last sort of year or two, so I think that sort of shows how good a manager Ralph is.
Yeah, and we've also had players who fell out either with Ralph or previous managers, and then who have been able to be brought back in and kind of rejuvenated and played well and made contributions. Think of Romeu. You think of the impact Vestergaard had, and you just you look at the team and think like we're being coached very, very well. And the second part of that question is, does it show how good of a manager we have? I think it does. I think that when you hear him talk, when you see the emotional kind of outburst at the end of the Liverpool match, when you see how certain players, and it's not just that everybody is improving all in the same way. You can't just look. I mean, the whole team has improved their fitness, but you can't just say, oh yeah, they've just become fitter and now they are playing better. But I think you can look at kind of the leadership of James Ward-Prowse, his the positions he's taking up, the learning the dark arts. You look at Stevens and those things, and you can see that Adams has gotten more confident in terms of his finishing to an extent. And you look around that and you see that Ralph is somehow able to see where these players are lacking, and he's able to, not necessarily that he's the one coaching them all individually, but he is able to get them the instruction and the practice and the direction they need. And I think that says a lot. I think that playbook that he has, it is showing to an extent when the guys are coming in from the academy or from the B team, because the players that stepped up and played against Shrewsbury, granted I didn't watch the entire match, but the match didn't seem to be that much different than how we would normally play. The pressing seemed to be pretty similar from the highlights that I saw. All of the movement seemed to be there, and the way what we want to do when we have the ball and when we don't seems to be filtering through. And I think that shows that Ralph's leadership is really spreading throughout the club.
Yeah, 100%. Like you say, whenever players come in from the cold, like Diallo came in, I think, for them for one of his first appearances, and looks brilliant and has been great ever since. Also, barely played, came in, done well. The youngsters, like you say, have come in and done really well, so it doesn't seem to matter who it is that comes in. They're well drilled and know what's expected of them and are able to deliver performances. That's all down to Ralph, who's just been sensational since he's come to the club, and I was just so lucky to have him, and got to do everything we can to make sure we hold him.
Yeah. And obviously the Ings contract situation has come up over and over and over, and as has Bertrand's, and there seem to be links to them going, a plethora of places. And really, I think for me, I tend to trust Blackmore over basically everybody else.
Yeah, 100%.
I trust Dan Sheldon as well, but Blackmore just seems to be, he'll just say it, just put it in a tweet, and that makes it a lot easier to just go like, no, this isn't happening. And it's totally normal for agents to speak to news outlets or to reporters, and not to mislead them, but to, you're trying to do a job, and sometimes you have to get a little bit of an advantage. And sometimes the players aren't all that involved in the entire thing. They've kind of sat down with their agent. They've kind of worked out what they wanted. The agent and the club then tend to go and do that. And when the player becomes involved, and when, we see when things go poorly, that, we saw what happened with Højbjerg. We saw what happened with Van Dijk. We saw, we've seen this play out, but, I think Bertrand, the issue is the length of his contract, according to Blackmore. And it's totally normal for a guy that is his age, when he's probably got just this is going to be the last kind of lucrative contract. You can't imagine him going anywhere. I don't want to say this is the wrong thing to say, but anywhere bigger than Southampton after this. So it's totally, I mean, if his agent is able to eke out another 6 months on the contract or another year on the contract, that's a lot of money in Bertrand's pocket. So you understand that, securing the money, that's his family's financial future. Like, all of these are important. So I'm not mad at him for that leak, but I am, people we try to think about it this way. And I'd, but if he turns out to go somewhere else, I'll be upset, like I will be, and I'll have to hold my hands up and say, like, I bought it, but I can't think that money's not the issue I think for either one of them. It's just, and I really respect what Ralph said, whereas, like, if Danny Ings wants to play Champions League football next season, then he should score 15 or more goals for us this season, and then we'll see what happens, Yeah. So, I mean, for you, how worried, is this transfer window? I can't see us spending a lot of money, given the financial, reports that came out and things like that. So, I mean, how do you view the transfer window? I mean, I hate it, but how do you view it? It's almost over. It's been pretty quiet. So, fingers crossed that we get through it unscathed.
Yeah, I can't see us doing anything to it. There was talk of Brandon Williams potentially coming in, but it seems like United don't want to get rid of him. So anyone in the top half of the league, maybe Arsenal might go to, but I think that's boat sales sort of thing. In terms of outgoings, I don't think we'll get rid of anyone either, because especially with the injuries and COVID situation, you could have like the day before game, like, and you'd have to still play it sort of thing. So I just don't think we're going to keep many people out of the squad, so it's vital we keep them, and we will keep them. And in terms of the things and Bertrand stuff, I think there's no point people moaning at the players or anything like that, because at the end of the day, they've done well for us and been two of our best servants in recent years. So no one could, say, be disappointed or be annoyed at them if they wanted to play at a high level. But I don't think that's the issue. I think that's the issue. It's the contract length, like you say, and also England wanting to play for Champions League club, which he's more than good enough to be. So I think that's sort of how it is at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Bertrand is 31 years old and he's going to get a rest on Tuesday because he's suspended for that game, but he's been there nearly every minute and running up and down. And granted, he's not getting forward. I think his positions that he's taken up are slightly more, not quite as advanced as Kyle Walker-Peters, but there's nearly a 10-year age gap in that. So give him some credit. And sometimes you just need a little bit of, especially when Djenepo plays on that side, you just need a little bit of solidity there because you can see Djenepo do all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, so Kevin McGee asked, and this was sent in, I think, just after we recorded the show last week. So we kind of spoke about it already. Does the financial report tell us we're not spending any or very little in this window? And I can't really. I mean, you look at the squad and you say, look, we probably need to add something, but the something that we need to add is going to be, 20, 25, 30 million pounds probably. That's it. And that's just because everybody needs money right now. And quite frankly, we don't have it.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to buy anyone at the moment. The best we can hope for really is a loan deal or being fixed on a free transfer or something like that. But yeah, the financial report came out last year was quite worrying, but I think if you looked at most clubs, it would be exactly the same. So yeah, it's going to be like that for a little while, I'm afraid. And until fans are back in and they get ticket sales and stuff like that, it's going to be like it, I'm afraid. So yeah, got to sort of stick in there. And we're lucky we're not a club like Burnley. Burnley have got small weaker squad already, so I don't want to disrespect them, but like they have, so it's going to be even harder for teams like that.
You can disrespect Burnley on here. Nobody, I don't think, is going to care. I know one particular fan, Dan hates Burnley with a passion, so that's one listener you'll be happy to slander Burnley for you if you want to do it. That said, I do have like 3 Burnley players, I think, or 2 Burnley players in my fantasy football team, but that's okay. It's different thing. You spoke there about the lack of match day revenue and how that's kind of impacting the club, and match day revenue is a huge part of how the club generates revenue. And there's also, the TV broadcast rights and things like that. And then there is the kind of the commercial side of things where we have, obviously our front of shirt sponsor, which we changed this season that caused some issues. But then there's the actual, agreement we have with the shirt manufacturer, and we have terminated our contract with Under Armour, and we can look at what Under Armour's done the past couple of seasons, and most fans haven't been overly thrilled with how it's gone, and that's fair. You can see the problems we've had with sponsorship on the front, but the club doesn't make a ton through actual shirt sales. They usually get a percentage, but the majority of what they're going to get from a kit manufacturers, they're going to sign a contract. They're going to get, Hummel will actually pay us to produce the shirts. Hummel will keep the majority of the revenue, and we will get a percentage after so many are sold. Usually that's how it works. But I think maybe that's at least a little bit of excitement around, the fans in terms of we're having a kit manufacturer that people have been happy with in the past, but it's before my time. I think it's probably before your time as well. But I guess how would you gauge the reaction to the announcement that Hummel's going to come in, that Under Armour are out, and then obviously we don't know who the front of shirt sponsor will be next season, but how you gauge the reaction to this?
Pretty well received from what I saw. Under Armour have been okay, like you said, a bit mediocre. A lot of people have been happy with them. Obviously, had issues with the shirts not coming on time to start the season, both this year, I think it was last year as well. It's caused a big outcry, so I think people were quite desperate to see a change in that area of the sort of thing. And I think Hummel, I've seen a few kits. We used to have Hummel before, and I've seen a few kits, and they look actually quite nice. I think Everton have got Hummel this year, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I think Everton's home kit, some of the comments from some of the patrons, Everton's home kit are very nice. Some of the other ones not as nice. And so we'll have to see. And I think, a club of our size, here's some people, like Brighton signed with Nike this year. And you're basically lucky if you get one good one out of the 3, right? One of them is probably going to be a template they use for everybody else. They'll spend some quality time on one of them, and you just hope they get that one right. And hopefully, if we are pushing for a European place, Hummel will, look at that and see that we're trending in the right direction. And so, hey, make a good impression here. But I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. I think, as you said, it seems the reaction was pretty happy. And I'm not sure if the reaction was just happy that we were done with Under Armour or that Hummel was back. And I also think that some of it will be based on who the sponsor is that goes on the front of the shirt. And obviously the club are working on that. And I was critical of their choice, not just to go with sportsbet.io this season, but the fact that they put themselves in that situation by going with a company that just happened to give them the most money that they would in LD Sports. But anyway, that's over with and that's done, and we'll deal with what comes next. And I don't know. I'm hoping that we get something good out of this, in the next couple of months, and we'll see. It won't take very long for them to drop the new one, so we'll see that. I want to say, for some reason, since I've been supporting Saints, they've often had issues with kits. I think there was a year that we had to produce the kits in house, and that was with Adidas. We've had issues with Under Armour for a couple of seasons. We've had issues with front of shirt sponsors. I think even Virgin didn't like the way that their logo looked one year, and so that caused a delay, I think, on the yellow and blue kit. I think so. We've run into a number of issues, and hopefully we'll get them sorted out. And that's nothing to do. I mean, some of those are out of our control, right? Like, people just want their product, their brand to look a certain way, and you got to get. I mean, it's hard enough to round up 3 or 4 people to talk to every month on this show, let alone, get corporations to produce the right stuff. So, I don't know. That's my thoughts on that. I'm not sure if that'll get cut or not, but there you go. There's one more question here from Stephen Brandt, who's a patron of the show. And, he put into the chat, the Discord chat that we have, he says, how does it feel to beat a minnow in the cup? And the responses to this, this question was asked in jest. But Kevin McGee responded with, he just reminded Stephen that, who is a Liverpool fan, actually, that we actually beat Liverpool in the league, not the cup. And the rest of the conversation I can't probably talk about because there were things said. But I mean, when we drew Arsenal, I guess, and when we go out and beat them, does that mean more than beating Shrewsbury in the cup? Does that give us a little bit more confidence, you think, to take into to the rest of this run of games? Or if we turn around and draw or lose on Tuesday, does that all just kind of go away?
It's a hard one to sort of say, but if we can get a draw against them in the league, it'll be a massive sort of step. Having them a couple of weapons starting to open up a little bit. Liverpool have gone out today. You're not Arsenal out, so there's a few big teams which aren't going to be there. So that's opened up for us, but I think it can help us gain confidence, because winning breeds confidence, winning breeds success. So if we'd lost again yesterday, it wouldn't have been looked great, and hopefully we've sort of got back onto the right foot now. Since
we started recording, United have beaten Liverpool, so that'll be
3-2,
that'll be good. And yeah, I mean, I guess looking at some of the teams that are still in it, I guess playing Wolves isn't that bad. We could have done worse.
Wolves fine, yeah.
Yeah. So
they're not in great form either.
Yeah. So we just gotta do it, and that's it. And that'll come soon. But we have other things to worry about between now and then. And we'll have to see. And those things include Arsenal in the league, Aston Villa in the league, United in the league, and Newcastle in the league. So we have a busy run of fixtures, and hopefully, hopefully we do the business. So I'm looking forward to it. But Tom, if people want to find your writing, where should we send them? Should we just go to your Twitter account? Should we follow Prost, or how can people find your writing?
Yes, if you follow Prost International on Twitter, search on Twitter, that will come up. It's been I've noticed a lot of Saints sort of based people have started writing to them. Dan Hargreaves, Jason Cecil, so a lot of the Saints stuff is really good, and the others have started joining as well. So that's obviously my Twitter as well, Tom_Mason18. Search it all on there. I'll do live updates during games and stuff. That's sort of the best way to find it. All
right. And if people can do it once it's open, get to Brentford, just to remind everybody. But
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
we'll put links to everything in the show notes so people can go and follow along. And I just want to say thanks for sharing your time with us. Thanks for the hard work you're doing for Prost. I know it's not always glamorous, especially in the COVID times, but you you seem to be enjoying getting to watch live football, and I think that's something that we're all looking forward to. So thanks for your hard work, and thanks for this, and we'll talk to you soon.
No, thank you very much for having me on. It's been really good, and yeah, hopefully I can keep going to games and keep getting entertained. Thanks very much.
And that does it for this week's episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Tom Mason. You can find him on Twitter at Tom_Mason18 and on Instagram at Tom_Mason19. You get his writing at Prost International. The links to all of those are in the show notes, so follow along. I appreciate his time and his views, and I think you will too. In addition to saying thank you to Tom, I want to say thank you to the partners of the show, the Saints Archive. Thank you so much for agreeing to partner with me, to let me tag along on some of the interviews, and for helping me learn more about the culture and the history of this fine football club. Additionally, the Southampton page on Twitter, they will keep you up to date with everything that's happening all the time, from injuries to transfers, which it's January and hasn't really been a whole lot coming in, a few things going out. But anyway, whatever's going on, follow the Southampton page and they will keep you up to date with just that. All music for this show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you're listening to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. The logo for the show is done by Matt Beeling of the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. Matt also has a podcast, the 3PL podcast. You can check that out by visiting his Instagram. I highly encourage it. And a special thanks to all of you for listening, and to the patrons of the show for making sure this thing stays on the air. If you are enjoying the show, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you listen, or by joining us over at patreon.com/SFC Delivery, where we will have an extra podcast episode following the Arsenal match on Tuesday. That does it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back again next week. And until then, remember that together, we march on.